just a fairy tale like every other creation story. And again, what I would say is this: the specifics may not be literal, but it does record a historical event. How it actually happened, I don't know. But my guess is that there's, again, more to this story than is meeting the eye. I don't want to give too much away, but I want to just put that in there. Yes?
So, I'm confused. When did Satan fall? Was he before or after creation?
Good question. There is no definitive timetable, but it was definitely before the creation of man.
So then that would have been him in the garden.
Yes, that is him in the garden. The serpent in the story is the devil.
And God created angels as well?
Yes.
During the creation?
During the creation account, God created all the angels.
And
Yes.
that's where we have what we call fallen angels.
Yes. The devil and the demons are fallen angels that when that occurred, like what time, what day of creation that occurred, no, you can't think like that. When the creation account happened, how it happened, and when they fell, all that we can say probably for sure is it happened before the creation of Adam and Eve. When? How many years? I don't know. Frankly, I don't think anyone else does. But we do know that they fell before the creation of Adam and Eve, because he's already set in the story. Well, how do you know that the serpent is the devil? Well, because when you look in the book of Revelation, chapter 12, and you have this story of a woman clothed with the sun,
With the
moon under her feet, crown of 12 stars. Right, it's Our Lady of Guadalupe. You got it. So see, Our Lady of Guadalupe made it into the Bible. Verse 7 of chapter 12. Now war arose in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought, but they were defeated, and there was no longer a place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. Did you see that? It's very clear in the book of Revelation that the ancient serpent, which is hearkening back to our story in chapter 3 of Genesis, is connected to the dragon that is at war with the woman clothed with the sun in Revelation chapter 12. And if you remember our study in the book of Revelation, I said that this is a clear connection between these two. That again, there's more to this than just the meeting the eye. These are symbolic representations of real persons. Okay? Symbolic representations of real persons. All right? And I would argue when we get to Genesis chapter 3 and we get to the story of the fall, that what is being portrayed here is the personification of a real person, and that real person is the devil. And the devil comes to Eve in our story in the form of a serpent, something that she would have seen in the garden. Okay? Okay? So, let me go back to that. Okay. So man names the animals, finds no suitable companion. Okay? The creation of woman from the side of the man, not the rib. Okay? Again, we run into a translation dilemma. We typically talk about woman coming from the rib of Adam. In Hebrew, the word is Tesla, not to be confused with the car or the company. Tesla simply means side, just side. It doesn't mean rib, it doesn't mean bone, it just means from the side of Adam. Where do we get the rib idea? Again, early English translations, lack of a better term, God took something from Adam's side. Well, what's on the side here? The spleen? No, that's not it. So what's here? Your rib cage. So God took one of the ribs and made woman out of it. There used to be an old wives' tale myth that men have less ribs than women to reflect that. That's a misnomer. That's physiologically silly. Men and women have the same number of ribs. So that has nothing to do with it. There's no Bible proof that men have less ribs than women, and therefore, I've heard it all. Well, maybe not at all, but I've heard enough of these kinds of fanciful things that you just gotta. That it's silly. It's silly. So this all has to do with translation error. Almost all things that we understand about the Bible come from translation errors, like this. He wasn't formed from a rib. That's not the word. He was formed from his side. Okay. And then I mentioned this before. You compare this to John 19:25 and following. The scene at the crucifixion. The side of Christ is opened up, and out flows the blood and water that will redeem and purify his bride. So Jesus is the second Adam doing everything right. When he dies, when he goes to sleep, like when Adam goes to sleep, what comes out? His church. That's his bride. Just like when Adam goes to sleep, God takes from his side and forms Eve. So what we lost with Adam, we get with Jesus. Jesus is the second Adam, and out of his side, not his rib, out of his side comes the blood and water that will redeem and purify his bride, the church. So everything is coming full circle. I keep saying that Jesus is the second Adam. I mentioned in John chapter 1 and 2, we get a second creation account. It's not a second, it's a new creation account. And who is there in John chapter 2? With Jesus is Mary. So if Jesus is the new Adam, guess who's the new Eve? Mary. She is the first and primary apostle, redeemed and purified from the side of Christ, even before she was even conceived. Immaculate Conception. So she represents all the good of the church. She is that new Eve whose yes undoes the knot of disobedience that Eve's no tied us into. And by the way, the first theologian to come up with that whole idea, can you guess? Saint Irenaeus was the first one to write. Through Eve's disobedience, we were knotted in sin. Through Mary's yes, her fiat undoes that knot of disobedience with obedience. Eve's pride is countered by Mary's humility. It's very interesting in the Divine Comedy, in the Purgatorio, all of the 7 deadly sins are purified on Mount Purgatory. When you enter Mount Purgatory, at each of the levels, according to Dante, you get examples of the sin that put you there. Pride, lust, greed, avarice, lust, sloth, and on the way out, you get an example from the life of the Blessed Mother of how she exemplifies the virtue, which is the opposite of that vice. So in the realm of pride, you get her humility. In the realm of the slothful, you get her zeal. She went with haste to see her cousin. Okay? And so on. It's amazing. She becomes the model for the church because she best identifies and exemplifies all of the virtues that are in his bride. And where was she at the time of the crucifixion? At the foot of the cross. Most, when you look at that, she's typically on the right side of Christ, which is also typically where the wound in his side is. So she's like right there. And when you look in our churches, you see the crucifix, and to the right of Jesus is Mary. Almost always. There's some exceptions, but almost always that's the case. So we have these representations of her as the new Eve. Now, here's my personal reflection on this. What set me into this tailspin? One of the things that Dennis Prager said that really got me to thinking, and I never thought of this before, and I thought, wow, it's a deep thought, is that not even God himself, this is what he said in the commentary, God himself was not enough companionship for man. God himself was not companionship enough for man. And I've always thought, all you need is God. Oh, God is everything. God fills you. God is everything. And there's certainly a truth in that, and I don't want to discount that. But when we look at the creation account, there was man, there was God. And yet God said, it's not good that he be alone. The formation of woman as a companion, someone with whom he could relate to, other than God, was needed to complete. And what sent me into a tailspin about it is, you know, I've lived my life all by myself. I've never been married, you know, anything like that. And priesthood was not in the cards for me. And there are times I get extremely lonely. There are times, not always, but there are times. And I thought about this. I go, you know, maybe if I were in a monastery, you know, and surrounded by brothers, maybe that's more my calling. And then I read this and I go, so I'm not crazy. Not crazy. Men and women were designed to be in companionship with one another. Even God himself was not enough for man in this state. God created a woman for him so that he would not be alone. To help ease that, he needed someone to relate to on his level. I mean, there's God, and all that God is as well, but he's different than us. And God created, am I making sense here? Yes. And so when I reflected on this, I was just like, wow. It's like, not even God is enough for the human soul. God created woman in order to help fill the need of companionship for mankind. And I was like, wow. It just put a whole different perspective on the whole marriage and human relationship that we have with one another. And it caused me to value the love I received from you, my church family, and my friends that are there for me. That we are not designed to be hermits. Though there are hermits, and I think that that's an extraordinary grace. And it actually gave me a greater appreciation for monks, priests, sisters, and those special group of monks and nuns that are hermits. Because there has to be a special grace with that. You know what I mean by a hermit? There are actually people that are called by God that live apart from monasteries. They live solitary lives. And when I saw this, I go, it must be an extraordinary grace that they get from God in order to live in this kind of manner, because it is not good that man should be alone. We were meant to live in this kind of companion, that not even God himself was enough for him. And it also gave me a greater appreciation for the incarnation. God himself realized that in order to better relate to us, he incarnated. He didn't incarnate for Adam and Eve. You see what I mean? He incarnated. He shares our nature. He went that far so that he could relate to us better. Do you see what I mean? Wow. And you realize also that after Jesus died and he rose again, and he went where? He went to heaven. He didn't lose that body. He is forever the incarnation. He is forever the incarnate Son of God. He didn't lose that when he went to heaven. He didn't become a spirit again. He is the incarnate Son of God forever. God chose to become one of us. You know why? So that we could be with him. That's the mystery of salvation. God came down and incarnated so that he could elevate us up to him. Wow. That shows the extent of God's love. You see, which makes it better than what Adam and Eve had. I keep saying that, but it's something, again, worth reflecting. See, when Adam and Eve were alive, they related to God in his, if you will, spirit form, in pure spirit form. And there was no problem with that. But there was no Jesus. You know what I mean? He wasn't incarnated. When they fell, the first thing he said was, the seed of the woman will crush the serpent's head.
He said what?
The seed of the woman will crush the serpent's head. Which is an indication of the incarnation. God